fasting space will say, fasting works and fasting does not work. And both of those statements are true at the same time, depending entirely on who is doing the fasting and what state their body is in when they start the fasting. I know that's not the clean answer you have been waiting for. The fasting world is full of people telling you that fasting is revolutionary. And the anti-fasting world is full of people telling you that it is dangerous. And you are somewhere in the middle, exhausted by the debate, wondering if you are the problem. You tried it. Maybe it worked for a while. Maybe it made you feel worse. Maybe it made your cycle disappear. And nobody told you there was a condition attached to it working. In this video, I'm going to give you the thing the debate has been missing, a clinical framework for when fasting helps and when it hurts, and how to know which of the side of the line you are on right now. My name is Zainab. I'm a registered nurse. I have spent nearly 2 decades watching women try and fail and try again, not because they lacked discipline, but because the advice they were given had no condition attached. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a landmark trial that just came out in 2026, the strongest clinical evidence we have ever had on fasting and women's hormones. I'm going to show you exactly who fasting helps, the mechanism behind why, and what it's look like when fasting is wrong for your body and your timing. I'm going to give you a practical way to assess your own system before you try it. This video is paired with a Sunday video where I'm talking about the renaming of PCOS, which is directly connected to what we are going to cover today. The link will be in the description. Now, who fasting actually helps? In March 2026, a randomized controlled trial was published in Natural Medicine, one of the most respected medical journals in the world. 76 women with PCOS. And if you have heard that this condition is being renamed, I'm going to cover that in full on Sunday because it matters. So as I said, 76 women with PCOS were randomly assigned to one of 3 groups. A 6-hour eating window between 1 and 7 p.m. with no caloric counting whatsoever, and a 25% calorie restriction, or a control group. They followed this protocol for 6 months. The results were striking. Both the fasting group and the calorie restriction group lost a similar amount of weight, about 4 to 5% of their body weight. That part was expected, but here is what made the fasting group different. The women during their time-restricted eating only between 1 and 5 p.m. without tracking a single calorie, saw a 9% drop in testosterone, a 26% drop in free androgen index, measurable improvement in insulin resistance, and for the women who had irregular periods, around a third to nearly half of them saw their cycle came back to regularity, just from changing when they ate, without tracking, without weighing, without restriction in the traditional sense. Now, I need you to hold this study carefully for a moment, because here is what actually it tells us. This wasn't a study of women in general. It was a study of women with PCOS, a condition defined by elevated androgens, disrupted insulin signaling, and in many cases, a nervous system that has been running under stress for years. What the study tells us is that for the specific metabolic profile, a system with a particular kind of hormonal imbalance, a structured eating window does something therapeutically meaningful. It is not magic. but it is a match between the two and the indication. Which brings me to the most important sentence in this video. Fasting is a clinical tool, not a universal protocol. And like any clinical tool, it has indication. It works when the system is being applied to is the right system for it. Now here is the other side. Because if I left it there, I will be doing exactly what everyone else in this space is doing. Cherry picking the evidence that makes the argument clean. There is a different set of women whom a structured eating window creates a problem. Not because they are doing it wrong, no, but because their system is in a different state. In October 2025, a meta-analysis published in the journal Neurobiology of Stress looked at 21 studies involving more than 1,200 participants. The researchers were examining the relationship between your metabolic state, whether you have eaten recently, your blood glucose levels, and how your body responds to stress. What they found confirms something important. Your metabolic state and your stress response are not two separated conversations. They are the same conversation. What and when you eat changes how your body reacts to pressure. And here is what this means for a woman who is already depleted, already running on chronic stress, already in a high demand state, with poor sleep and too much on her plate. For her, extending the fasting window can register as another demand on a system that is already struggling to meet its current demands. Now, let me tell you what this looks like in real life. This is a woman who tried intermittent fasting and feel fine for 2 weeks. And then suddenly started waking up at 3 a.m. with her heart racing, whose cycle gets shorter or disappeared, who get more anxious, not calmer, who feels more inflamed, not better, who is confused because it worked for her friend. Her system is not broken. The two just wasn't the right match for her current state. So what is the deciding variable? What separates the woman the PCOS trial was designed for from the woman who fasting adds load rather than remove it? It is the state of the system. Now, how to assess your own system? Here is how I want you to think about this. Not as a quiz, no, not as another protocol, as a clinical read of where you are right now. The same read I would do if you were sitting across from me right now. There are 4 signals I use when I'm assessing whether a fasting approach is appropriate for someone's current state. Signal 1, sleep. Are you sleeping through the night and waking rested? Are you waking between 3 and 5 a.m. or waking unrefreshed regardless of how long you slept? If you are waking at 3 a.m. regularly, your cortisol rhythm is already disrupted. Fasting is a cortisol stressor. Adding a stressor onto an already elevated baseline is how you push a depleted system further into survival mode. Signal 2, cycle regularity. Is your cycle regular? Or is it getting shorter, longer, or disappearing? A disrupted cycle is one of the cleanest signals your body sends that it is resource restricted. If your body is already rationing its resources, restriction is not the next intervention. Stability is. I want to be honest with you here because this is something I've experienced personally, and so have several colleagues of mine. During a period when the demand on us were particularly high, longer shift, less sleep, and heavy mental load, some of us noticed our cycle changing, getting shorter, and in a couple of cases, temporarily disappearing altogether. We weren't eating differently. No, we weren't exercising more intensively. The only thing that changed was the load. That is your body doing exactly what it is designed to do. When it perceives a sustained threat, it begins quietly deprioritizing processes that aren't essential to immediate survival. Your reproductive system, as unfair as it feels, is one of the first to be paused. It is not failure, it is a signal. Signal 3, your stress recovery. Does your body feel like it recovers from stressful events within a few hours? Or do you stay in a heightened state for days? Women whose vagal tone is low, whose nervous system are slow to return to baseline after stress, are the women for whom fasting can amplify dysregulation rather than correcting it. We cover vagal tone in depth in the last video. The link is in the description. Signal 4, energy pattern. Do you have a stable baseline energy through the day? Or do you experience crashes, brain fog, and reaching for something sweet or caffeinated by mid-morning? This is your insulin and cortisol pattern showing itself. A system with poor insulin regulation may generally benefit from a structured eating window. But a system that is already crashing needs to be stabilized before it restricts. Capacity before consistency. I've said it in other videos and I will say it here again because it is the principle the whole fasting debate has been missing. The question isn't whether fasting is wrong. The question is whether your system has enough stability right now to use it as a tool rather than experience it as a threat. If you have PCOS or insulin resistance or hormonal dysregulation that has been in place for a long time, and your sleep is reasonable, your cycle is present, and your stress response is not severely impaired, then the evidence generally suggests a structured eating window may be therapeutic for your specific pattern. The study is rare. The hormonal outcomes were meaningful. But if your system is depleted, if the signals I just described resonate with you, the most powerful thing you can do is not to fast harder. It is to build the capacity that makes fasting possible. That might look like prioritizing sleep for 30 days before introducing any eating window. Working on your nervous system first, which is what we cover on the vagal tone. I will link that video in the description. Eating regularly and consistently to stabilize your insulin before experimenting with restriction. You were not wrong to try fasting. You were not wrong if it worked for a while. You were not wrong if it made you feel worse. All of those responses made complete sense when you understand the system underneath them. If the channel is new to you, I publish every Wednesday and Sundays. No trends, no quick fixes, just the actual science in the context of real women's life. So subscribe if that sounds useful to you. On Sunday, I'm publishing a companion video about the renaming of PCOS, what it actually means, and why it vindicates what so many of you already knew about your own condition. The link is below.